we're going to talk about estimating sums and differences of fractions. So let's take a look at this. Okay, when we're estimating sums and differences of fractions, there's some vocabulary we need to know. Estimating is to make an approximate calculation, often based on rounding. It's not exact. Sum is the answer to an addition problem. Difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. A fraction is a number that expresses parts of a whole or a set, and the denominator is the bottom number in a fraction. Some rules for estimating fraction. If a fraction is greater than or equal to a half, then we round up. If a fraction is less than half, round down to a 0. So let's do some examples. If we have 7/8 plus 1/5, something I like to do is to create a number line, okay? So we have 0, half, and then we have a whole. And we're saying 7/8. Well, I know a whole of 7/8, we would have 8/8. Half of 8 would be 4, so 4/8. If we have 7/8, that's pretty close to our 8/8 or our whole. So 7/8 becomes 1. Okay, for 1/5, half of 5 would be 2.5 out of 5. All of 5 would be 5 out of 5. If I have 1 out of 5, that is closer to 0. So we have 1 plus 0, which is equal to 1. Okay, if we have 11/12, okay, a whole would be 12/12, half would be 6/12. 11/12 is pretty close to 12/12, which would be like 1. 3/5 again, 5 out of 5, and then 2.5 out of 5. Well, 3 is just a little bit more than 2.5, and what was our rule? We said we have to round up to the largest, to our nearest whole number, which would be 1. So we say 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. Some of these x's here. All right. Now I've got 1/4 plus 3/6. So 4 out of 4 would be a whole. 2 out of 4 would be half. If I have 1/4, it's going to be right in there. Okay, so it's less than a half, so that's going to be 0. Plus 3/6. 6/6 would be a whole, and then 3/6 would be half. So if this is exactly half, we say if it's half or greater, we round up to the nearest whole number, which is 1. So 0 plus 1 is equal to 1. Okay, this one's a little bit different. We have a whole number. We have 1 and 4/10 plus 2 and 7/8. And when we have a problem like that, what we need to do is we need to take into account the whole number. And we add that number to whatever our fraction estimates out to be. So we're going to find those and add those to our whole numbers. So my first one is 4/10. Okay, 10 out of 10 would be 1. 5 out of 10 would be half. If I have 4/10, that's right about there, which is less than half. So that's basically, we have to round down to 0 for that one. And then I have 7/8. 8 out of 8 would be my would be 1, and then 4 out of 8 would be half. Well, 7/8 is all the way over here, which is closer to 1. Add those together. 1 plus 0 is 1, plus 2 plus 1 is 3, which would get me 4. Okay, I'm going to have you pause this, work on these problems, and then we're going to check it. Okay, so we have 8 and 3/5 minus 5/8. Okay, so even though this is a subtraction problem, we have to add our whole number and our estimated fraction together, and then we would subtract those two estimated fractions. So if I have 3/5, 5/5 is close to 1, 2.5 out of 5 is half, and we're saying 3/5, which is just a little bit greater than 2.5, so that rounds up to 1. Minus 5/8. 8 out of 8 would be equal to half, or whole, and then 4 out of 8 would be equal to half, and then we've got 5/8. Move it over there just a little bit. Again, that's greater than half, so we would round that up to 1. So then we would say 8 plus 1 is 9, minus 1 would give me 8. All right, let's look at the next one. We have 11 and 5/12. Okay, again, we have to add our whole number to our estimated fraction, plus 5 and 4/5. So let's do our 5/12. 12 out of 12 would be a whole. 6 out of 12 would be half. If we have 5 out of 12, that's less than half, so we go to 0 for it. 5 and 4/5. Again, 5 out of 5 would be a whole. 2.5 out of 5 would be a half. 4/5 would be pretty close to 5/5, which would mean we would round up to 1. 11 plus 0 is 11, plus 6 equals 17. Okay, our final one. We have 27.5 minus 22 and 1/6. Okay, well, a half is a half, right? We don't have to even really put that on the number line. So if we look at that, you remember our rules from the beginning. If we have half or greater, that turns into 1. So we have 27 plus 1 minus 22 and 1/6. So 6 out of 6 would be a whole. 3 out of 6 would be half. We have 1/6. It's way down here by the 0. So that would be worth 0 when we're estimating. So 27 plus 1 is 28 minus 22. We would be with a final answer of 6.